Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
Money is something we all deal with, but how many of us truly understand it? What if you could make better decisions with your money? Decisions that secure your future, protect your family, and bring you peace of mind. I'm Darren Jacobs, and I'm here to help you make sense of your dollars. Welcome to Dollars and Cents, the show that breaks down the financial world in ways that matter to you. No jargon, no confusion, just real conversations about money, your money. So join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on WESN for Dollars and Cents.
This holiday season, bring the magic of Christmas home with WESN's Joy of Christmas. Relive timeless classics from the laughter to the heartwarming moments that make the season unforgettable.
Hey, like the lamp, not the rat, like the lamp, not the rat.
Santa's coming to town.
Santa! Oh my God!
Oh, baby.
Experience the joy of WESN special productions, crafted to bring you new stories and cherished memories. This year, let WESN bring the joy of Christmas to your home.
Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown!
Catch the spirit, catch the joy.
Anchors away. May the force be with you.
Only on WESN, your content capital.
WESN.
That is not unique to TNT's politics, but usually it's held more effectively against those in foreign jurisdictions who make promises and are unable to keep them. The voting population tends to remember, but you already promised this and you didn't deliver, so why should I believe you now on X, Y, or Z? Case in point, one of the things that we have gotten lip service about was with regards to fireworks and the legislation to regulate its use and probably to help further regulate its sale. Now, of course, there's certain things that are illegal, certain things that are legal, and then there are the concerns about not just the abuse of the illegal types of fireworks and the dangers therein, but also the abuse of any type of fireworks and the noise pollution that comes from it. Earlier on, a couple months ago, with our former media ambassador, Ashraf Ali, one of the segments we had was with regards to the use of illegal fireworks, or fireworks in general, and noise pollution. And of course, we also had stakeholders about noise pollution. And it's probably going to be a conversation we'll continue as we get, of course, into the Christmas and New Year's season, another time when you expect fireworks to be utilized significantly and to some extent, depending on where you live, which part of the country, annoyingly. And then, of course, Carnival is going to be on the horizon, and that will come with all the fetes and the loud music and the music trucks, and that's a whole next kettle of fish of noise pollution and TNT. But with regards to fireworks, it has been pointed out, well, promises were made. And the Fireworks Action Coalition of TNT basically is demanding accountability. There's that word again, It's so inconvenient to politicians. I would probably bet money if they could strike a word from the English language, one of the words that would be under consideration might be accountability. Or they use it, but somehow we get the sense that every time they use the word accountability, it's almost like it's a clue. Hey, here's an area that we're not actually going to take as seriously as you would like us to. It's almost like if it's a clue to their motivation. They're basically asking for that with regards to promised legislation to regulate fireworks. And I can't blame them because, like many things in TNT, it just kind of festers. And depending on the public outcry, there's enough public outcry to give enough lip service to silence the little public outcry, because at the end of the day, it's not as though you have 100,000 people marching on Whitehall because of a lack of fireworks legislation. You don't have the Red House being surrounded by crowds because of a lack of fireworks legislation. So some people bring up an issue and it gets in the public sphere, and to nip it in the bud, they say, we promise to do something about it. Don't worry. You know, and then 1 week turns into a month turns into a year turns into 5 years, a term, 1 term turns into 2 terms, and then it turns into 3 if you're willing to essentially be the unfortunate child of a divorced parent who always promised to come and pick you up, to spend time with you on the weekend on your birthday, but they never show up. Although one could argue in this scenario, both parents are just as derelict in their parental duties, but let's not get into that. And the sad part about it is the things that takes up their time is of limited effectiveness. The government will say, how you could say that we passed this legislation and that legislation and next legislation. Right. So I will challenge any political supporter because, you know, let's be fair, let's not limit it just to the PNM. Name me one piece of legislation that has had a significant positive impact to advance the development of TNT society within the last 20 or so years. The sad part is I know negative news sells, but usually the only thing that I could come up with is all negative. We've reached the point now where we have a procurement situation going on, and we're not even really talking about the Office of the Procurement Regulator anymore. But the Procurement Act is fully instated. It's fully instated. But in all of the hullabaloo, both the government and the opposition seemingly is almost like if everybody forgot, hey, aren't we supposed to have an Office of a Procurement Regulator to kind of oversee things like this and to prevent things like this? Yeah. Meanwhile, the Chief Secretary has once again called out for Tobago autonomy or Tobago self-governance. And there are 2 things that bothers me with this whole situation that I am going to caution Tobago on now. 1, you need to stop asking for autonomy when at the end of the day, really and truly, you have a general idea. But an idea is but a wish and a hope and a prayer, and it's not a proposal. What are the specific proposals? You have to actually put it in writing in detail, because this is not something that you can just say, we want our independence. Independence is different. It's a simple concept with a simple principle. The implementation could be complex, but the overall basic core thing is very self-evident. Autonomy and self-governance is not, because, as said by many speakers before, they're not actually asking for independence. And if you're not asking for independence, but you want self-government, dare I say then, the best thing to do would be to define it yourself, unless you want to risk someone defining it for you. And then it's going to be a back and forth. That's not what we meant. Well, if that's not what you meant, you need to define it now. And the reason why I say this is the Chief Secretary has come out to say, well, they will look to the international community and international law to help them get self-governance. And he pointed to certain the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. That's nice. I'm not entirely sure what any of those actually have to do with self-governance in a situation where you're not asking for independence, where you're not declaring yourself a sovereign nation. And also, I would just like to point out, international law is treaty. It's not legislative. There is no legislative body that passes it. At the end of the day, it's just a treaty signed by countries who may or may not enforce it. And there are bigger countries that have similar situations where potentially sub-jurisdictions are asking for more autonomy, if not outright independence, like the Basque region in Spain and Scotland in the United Kingdom. Because Scotland has its own parliament and everything, but they want more at times. And something tells me that for various international diplomatic reasons, most of the major countries in the world, outside of China, well, in fact, even China, will not want to touch this. Because China does not want to see Taiwan be declared an independent sovereign nation. Who's the contractor in the Tobago airport right now? They don't want that precedent set. And the precedent is not it happening or not happening. The precedent is their officials getting involved and making official statements, proclaiming something that will then set a precedent that could then be used to argue against or for other jurisdictions with similar issues. More importantly, one of the things about self-governance that has come to alarm me is it seems as though the real issue is about having an independent stream of revenue. And to some extent, I can understand that. One of the things that I'm not entirely sure, we haven't really heard about what's going on with property tax in Tobago. I don't know how that's supposed to work, because the THA essentially is what the local government reform was supposed to turn all the other local government bodies into, right? And to be honest, I wouldn't have an issue with Tobago essentially getting most of the tax money that its residents and businesses pay. It can't take all, because there are just certain national things that has to be done by the central government. So the problem is they want the oil and gas revenue from those resources in their waters. That's cool if you want to set a defined and clear line of distinction between your money and Trinidad's money. I just need to know who's going to pay the subsidy for the air bridge and for the ferry for your citizens, who's going to pay for the upkeep of the ferry in particular, and when we need new ferries, right? Who's going to do that? Because that's the thing. If we want to draw a line, it's like a prenup. You have to draw a line on everything. You can't draw a line on some things. And then now, how confident are you that when those resources run out, you would set up the economy to no longer need any help from Trinidad? Because my assumption is, correct me if I'm wrong, the idea is the revenue from the resources in Tobago waters should exceed the budget allocation that Tobago gets currently, and essentially would replace it. Fine, cool. I actually don't really have that much of an issue with that. My issue is, as Trinidad and Tobago on a whole is basically seeing its natural resources position shrink, and we're reaching the end. We are far closer to the end than we are at the beginning. We have to deal with the what comes next that we've put off for however many decades. And even if Tobago could have 2-3 decades of enrichment, are you ready for what comes next after that? Because depending, if you want to draw a line, then Trinidad ain't going to be there to directly inject money anymore. And that's the thing. The reason why this whole situation started in the first place was it existed before oil and gas. And the people at the time running the situation didn't necessarily have a better idea. And then one could argue, if we want to define a clear distinction in the finances, what would happen if Trinidad says, that's fine, now you have to pay us back for all of the money we pumped into Tobago from the central government coffers, which may or may not have come from Tobago revenue streams. That can also be done if you want to make a clear distinction in whose money is whose. I'm not saying it has to be that way. I don't want it to reach to that point. But that's what could happen. So again, you can't just call for the general concept. If it was a simple, straightforward concept like independence, fine. Because all of those implications that I pointed out would be automatically on the table, and it would be an understood thing, given the nature of what independence is. It's a very final decision. It doesn't have any kind of room to maneuver like the term self-governance or the term autonomy. And right now, I do wonder if everybody is really just, it's come up again not to actually achieve anything from either the TPP or the PNM, but rather just to be an election gimmick for the new general election because the Tobago seats are going to be that important. So I will end where I began. What is actually the desired outcome for the people of Tobago with regards to autonomy? Not just what you think it means, not just what it means to you, but what the island as a whole is willing to accept. And there's a part of me that suspects that it will vary from person to person. And I understand we've had consultations, that's fine. It's fine that you've had a lot of consultations on this issue. Where is the documentation or the legislative proposal that is not what the PNM is proposing? I know there are some details worked out. But I really would like to know what the future of autonomy means, not just the present. Because when it comes to countries, 5 years is nothing. 10 years is nothing. 50, 60 years, now we're getting somewhere. And you have to be willing to look that far ahead and not just look at the budgetary constraints of the now and what you could maybe get now. Because there's a part of me that says, well, if Tobago wants autonomy, technically speaking, the only reason is because it's its own island. California is the 10th largest economy in the world. Why don't they ask for autonomy and self-governance and independence? They're 10th largest. They have an economy bigger than some countries, and they're just a state in the United States. But if Tobago wants all of that and pushes for it, well, it is what it is. All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll run through as much topics as we can get through. Of course, the airport saga has continued. It hasn't necessarily taken a new turn. It's just the debate has actually come right back to where it was yesterday. And we'll get into that and more when we come back after this. This is Talking About the WSN show. Michael Small will be back.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, Meinl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
My name is Dr. Stephen Carroll, the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private health care affordable.
For all your medical needs, including dental, radiology, laparoscopy, behavioral and mental health, along with many other services, contact us for more information at 235-5479.
Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust. Prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
And we're back. And one of the issues, I think, indirectly contributing to the desire for autonomy, and rightfully so, I would say, is the fact that this airport project is going on, and Tobago is essentially not part of it. That is to say, the THA. And of course, that's why I found the current head of the Tobago Council saying that the THA has done nothing for the development of Tobago to be a little bit disingenuous, because they're operating in the same budget that he operated on, which essentially was the bare minimum, right? Which is one of the reasons why I don't necessarily see the PNM treating the TPP unfairly. What they did to the Tobago Council, bypass them with the airport project, give them 4%, is what they're doing to the TPP now. And again, as I mentioned before, what makes this issue on a national level frustrating, or much more frustrating, is the fact that there are questions about the use of government funds, government not being the PNM, government being, as in the state, the funds of the nation of Trinidad and Tobago, in a large project. And now there are questions about the accountability of said funds, and the procurement regulator is, to borrow a phrase from the Attorney General, the procurement regulator on this situation is non-existent. It's like they disappeared, the whole office. Or rather, what's the point of having the Office of the Procurement Regulator if they're not in charge of such a project as overseeing a $1.5 billion new airport? It's all lip service. So, we'll get into the details now as we start today's daily review. So yesterday was the Prime Minister versus the opposition leader. The Prime Minister didn't really say much. He did say the Minister of Finance will explain things. And the Minister of Finance, he said things. He made claims. All right, fair enough. His claim is that the numbers thrown out by the opposition leader are wrong and that the cost overruns are basically not but 2% or US 2.5 million in cost overruns. $1 million. Now, he also went on to say that the claims about substandard work is not true, that the project is on pace to be completed by the 31st of March 2025. The cost overruns, what cost overruns they are for items such as equipment, roadworks, etc., etc. Notice $1.5 billion TT, but for whatever reason now we want to quote US because 2.5 million is a smaller number. That's just my opinion and observation. But the minister's explanation start to fall short when, during the question and answer segment, he was asked about some reports that have been circulated in the public sphere, and the media has reported on it directly. They've not just listened to what the opposition leader had to say and copied and pasted. They went into the reports themselves, they reported on the contents themselves, and the contents of those reports, they're not necessarily fully backing up the opposition leader, but they bring up questions with regards to the minister's version of events. Because then it goes on to say, or rather, he went on to say that he does not know what these reports are and what are circulated. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if the government realizes that when the opposition leader makes a claim and the Prime Minister wants to say that is rubbish and the Minister of Finance will explain further, you essentially are now, unless you go in front of a formal court of law, you are arguing a case, two sides in a court of public opinion. You're having a public debate, which at the end of the day, for better or worse, it's not so much about evidence, it's about convincing the population. And evidence helps to do that, but it's not always the beyond and end all, which is not actually a good thing, but c'est la vie. Now, one of the things when you're trying to win a public debate is, you see this wonderful structure here that we probably did not need something that big, and this photo doesn't even begin to give you the sense of the size of this project. Doesn't include a new runway or anything like that. Let's just remember that. When you say things like, you don't know what the reports that are circulating are, well, you're engaging in a public debate. You didn't start it, I understand that, but ironically, you have the advantage. You know what's out there, and all you have to do, bare minimum, is counter what is out there in public circulation. And you mean to tell me that Cabinet met to determine how to respond to a situation without ascertaining what the situation even is? Because the situation is not that there are cost overruns at the airport and we need to spin it. I don't know if that's true or not. And that's technically not what the government is debating. As much as we want to get the truth to that, that's what's most important to us. But what the government is essentially debating is the opposition leader telling the population the truth or not? Is the information that's been circulating out there, what is it? How is it framing this whole project? And what are we going to say about the reports that were given that are out in the public? How do we respond to them? Not just the opposition leader. But it seems as though they only cared about one aspect of this. Oh, the opposition leader is obviously lying, and we need to respond to that and say that she's a liar, and show that she's a liar, and the people will just believe us, and, you know, we will win. Whereas, you didn't even look at the reports. You didn't, like, the reports might be false, so then you look at the report and you say, it's false for this reason. And you bring your receipts as to why you claim it's false, and hopefully you will have documentation of your own, which you could then disseminate to the population to prove that they're false. Now, people say that politicians are smart. Sean, politicians are smart people, you know. So let's go with that assumption, politicians are smart people. Really? You don't know what's been circulated in the public? Really? There are people probably hired by both government agencies and probably the PNM itself to monitor media channels. So I'm fairly certain, even if you don't have the reports themselves, you should at least know what the media has been saying about it, unless, I mean, again, politicians are smart people. They've set all these systems up. Really, you don't know what's been circulated in the public? You're the government of Trinidad and Tobago. I think it would behoove you to at least be aware of what the public is seeing with regards to sources of information of a project upon which you are now attempting to enter into debate to defend yourself against claims of potential corruption. Now, one of the things that the minister did say, and I can't fault him for it, is what is the opposition leader, what crimes is she accusing there to be? Because you said there needs to be an investigation. An investigation for what? And to be fair, to some extent, he's right. If there's enough evidence to suggest a criminal act, well then, where is it? Show it to us. And one would think that the opposition leader should be able to say, well, you know, they're potentially engaged in this crime, this crime, this crime, and this crime, whatever they may be. And the fact that that doesn't happen kind of robs some of the momentum from the opposition leader's argument. Because, again, going back to what one contractor said, cost overruns doesn't necessarily mean corruption. It could just mean mismanagement, which, again, can be used against the government, but then that doesn't necessarily call for a police investigation. And these things, believe it or not, do matter, because you don't want to be Peter crying wolf. And then now, when you actually cry wolf, nobody listens. In fact, one could argue a certain section of the population stopped listening to the opposition because they cried wolf so much. But let's not get there. The reason why I find it very incredulous that the minister wanted to say, I still can't get over the fact that his defense is, I'm not aware of what these reports are and what's in them and what's being circulated. He's also not aware there's any dispute in the terms of claims made between China Railway Construction Caribbean Limited and NIDCO. And what I think is happening is he just doesn't want to speak about the issue, so he's basically trying to say, well, I'm not aware. I don't know how true that is, but of course I have no evidence to suggest, so I'm not going to say what I feel on those statements and his motivations for saying them fully. But these reports, well, first of all, the opposition leader is saying that the opposition leader, not Sean Small, the opposition leader is saying that the minister is lying because when he says, the minister pretended not to know what these reports are, when in fact he brought the note to cabinet with these reports attached and got it approved. The McDonald report, the GLEAD schedule report, the GLEAD budget report, November 23, 2024, the NIDCO claims assessment report, and a legal report, 5 appendices attached to a cabinet minute in November 28, 2024. Now again, she claims that this is a cabinet minute with these documentations attached. We don't necessarily have a way to verify that claim. But usually it'll be a very bad idea to take a claim this far without enough evidence to back it up. I'm not saying it's impossible. Sometimes people are dumb and they do dumb things. But again, remember, people always tell me politicians are smart. So let's go with the smart interpretation of what this could mean. A smart person will only make specific claims with specific details like this if they have enough for it to be reasonable. And to say that you have a cabinet minute with reports attached, that's a very specific claim. And it's only really reasonable if you actually have said thing in your hand, or if someone gave you a red herring, something false, and you didn't verify it, and you went and ran with it. That is the only other reasonable possibility. But one of the daily newspapers didn't even bother with the opposition leader. They just went straight to these reports. And it doesn't necessarily get to the figure that the opposition leader said of almost $500 million. It rather got to a figure of 261 million TT dollars of cost overruns. Now, some of the things that the newspaper report in one of the newspapers pointed out were like pre-approved cost increases. So I'm not entirely sure if this is part of there's a fund of about $40 million, I think 40 million US, that the minister pointed out for contingencies. And I don't know if to some extent this isn't really like a cost overrun that was to try to rush the project through, et cetera, that would fit in all of the claims that the opposition leader was making. But regardless, we're still talking about more than 2.6 million US dollars or something like 14 million TT dollars. Because that's what the minister is claiming on the cost overruns. But according to the figures in these reports and the recommendations that the Minister of Finance recommends and Cabinet he asked to agree to, the extra money into this project is to the tune of $261 million. That's according to these reports that the Minister of Finance himself took to Cabinet. We're talking to $5 million provided by the Ministry of Finance to cover any other project risks that may arise. Loan financing, $15 million, this is US, this is all US. Based on the NIDCO claims assessment and as an advancement to the CRCCCL, subject to legal terms and conditions, a lump payment of 10 million TT to cover NIDCO's project management fees until the completion of projects to be sourced by the Ministry of Finance budgetary allocation. That should be part of the pre-existing budget, clearly. Payments for variations that categorize approved and structure anticipated, totaling US $14.2 million to be paid to China Construction from the contingency, and provisional totaling US $11.7 million, and the balance approximately US $2.5 million from their budget allocations, the Ministry of Finance. US $14.2 million from the contingency fund for variations categorized as approved, instructed, and anticipated. Not entirely sure of what that means, but it sounds like you're dipping further into the contingency fund than you said. And there's more. You could read it, and this report specifically is in the Express. You could get the list there. And the reason is that the contractor for the construction, China Railway, is currently experiencing serious cash flows issues due to an increase in costs and pending claims, which could cause further delays in completing the project by March 2025, if not immediately addressed. And I assume the cash flow issues would include things like paying salaries and paying recurring expenditures and et cetera, et cetera. And then one of the other daily newspapers, the Newsday, points out to the fact that one of the reports is recommending, basically, in order to ensure the completion, that the government either try to continue with the pre-existing arrangement, replace NIDCO and one other company with regards to the management of the airline project, because of whatever the situation is between them and China Railway Construction, or replace the contractor. This does not seem necessarily, based on these reports, like a project that is 100% healthy and moving forward, and yeah, March 25th. And it goes back to the claims that, look, and I think there's actually quite a few news stories in there, and they're all kind of similar, so forgive me. But there is also, I believe, a part where it's stated that the government wants a soft opening for early 2025. That's essentially what's being pushed. Not just claims by the opposition leader, to be fair to her. So here's the thing, and it all comes back to what I said yesterday. Now, to be fair, the opposition leader has advanced documents. It does not fully prove her claim that the cost has had an overrun of $500 million. So we need, like, where did you get that figure exactly? What is missing here? Unless I'm misreading what has been reported in the press. But she has revealed enough to basically say, well, Minister of Finance, your claim of just 14 million plus TT dollars of cost overruns. That doesn't look to be entirely accurate either. Are you playing games with semantics on what is or is not a cost overrun? And some of this is being paid. More than one of the items, there are multiple items. I didn't want to read through all of it because I think it's something like 10, where the Ministry of Finance will essentially foot the bill for some of these extra expenditures. What does that even mean for the cost of the project and the allocated money for the project? Was it that you didn't have the money to allocate for the project? What's going on with running this thing? I'm not saying the opposition leader is right, the Minister of Finance is wrong, the Minister of Finance is right, the opposition leader is wrong. Sorry about that, Director. But what I am saying is what I said before. Minister of Finance, Government of Trinidad and Tobago, you all need to be proactive in what you all give out to the public and stop just trying to play defense. Well, the opposition leader is wrong. Do we have documentation to say why she's wrong? No, we just say that she's wrong. Or there's stuff out there, I don't even know what it is. Or there are issues between NIDCO and China Railway Construction, I don't even know what they are. Politicians are smart. I have a hard time believing him when he says he is not aware of anything. So, what is my current conclusion, which is fluid because it's subject to change as details change and more information comes out? Right now, what I think is happening is kind of simple. I don't think there's big corruption here, or at least not new corruption here. What I do think is this is a legacy project, and the Prime Minister wants to retire. And the best time to open this would be to do so before the election and before he retires so he could do it himself. Despite the fact that he is the political leader of a party that was rejected by his own place of birth, where he seems to be desperate to get a legacy project off the ground. So they may be fast-tracking this thing. The minister wanted to say, well, we just didn't renew the oversight, the contract with CEF because NIDCO did that and they just didn't renew the contract, or CPO. But it comes back to the claims that that company was removed because they weren't willing to approve of fast-tracked work that is potentially substandard. The minister claimed that the foundation of the building and the construction of the building is all solid and fine, and that may be true, but we don't know that. Right now in this situation, we can't necessarily take the word of either party at face value. The reports that are out there have questions, and the public should be focused on those questions most of all. And the government, if they want a win, they need a win, I would imagine. But I am naive enough to think that the voting population would care about the things as how I care about them and what I think is important, and maybe I'm misreading the whole situation. They need a win, they want a win, and if it's one thing that the opposition has done successfully, it has nipped the potential of an easy win for the government in the bud. They might still get their win in this situation, but they're making it harder on themselves when they try to utilize their same old disingenuous communication tactics that have failed them for most of the last 10 years. And this is where I have to ask the question. If politicians are so smart, how is it that they attempt to do the same foolish strategic plays over and over again and not understand that when they don't work, they should try something different? I'm over time. Can't get into any other topics. But again, ironically, the communication failures of this whole situation annoys me almost as much as the financial implications, but I'll leave it there. We have the ASP waiting for this week, and we have to bring him in, so no more daily review. There are other topics, you could maybe bring them up at the end of the show when we open the phone lines, but we'll take a break and we'll welcome the ASP next.
Every holiday season, there's one toy everyone has to have.
I want the Turbo Man action figure with the arms and legs that move, and the Roger Orange jetpack, and the boomerang shooter.
Getting it is every child's dream.
Whoever doesn't can be a real loser.
Finding it.
You got the doll, right?
Is this father's nightmare.
I'll get that toy. I promise.
Whoa! Nothing like waiting till the last minute, Howard, sir.
Especially on Christmas Eve.
They're all gone.
These two are looking for a Turbo Man.
Where's your Christmas spirit?
The last one just left.
Now, it's two fathers.
This is war.
One mission.
Oh, poor baby.
And every man for himself.
I'm thinking maybe, we could join up as a team. Like Starsky and Hutch.
We're on late delivery of Turbo Man at Toy Works. Let's go. Is there a problem, officer?
You can never do too much to make a child's Christmas magical.
Hey, buddy.
From the director of Mrs. Doubtfire.
You want a Turbo Man for Christmas?
Forget it. I'm not going to sit in your lap. Tony, show him.
That was taken this morning.
And from the director of The Flintstones.
Don't open that up. No.
Of course, there's some assembly required. You know what you guys are? Nothing but a bunch of sleazy con men in red suits.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Sinbad.
I work for the post office, and I'm unstable. Tell him.
This man is totally insane.
Thank you.
Christmas comes but once a year.
Jingle all the way.
You picked the wrong day.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
Here's your chance to win a bicycle, a ride-on, or a hoverboard. Shop at dbesttoys.com and spend $300 or more to win big.
We've got Barbie,
Hot Wheels, Gel Blasters, Ride-ons,
Leapfrog,
Nerf, bicycles and tricycles.
Greco, and Wonder Baby.
Visit us in store at Forces Flagship, McBean, Movietown, Port of Spain,
Eastgate Smart, and M6 Plaza Endeavour.
Merry Christmas, everyone!
Que camino cogería si cogióle la desgracia, que golpe no llevaría, que golpe no llevaría una mujer me llamaba, pero
I'm back here and talk about WSN. So, we don't have too much time. Of course, he'll be with us for calls later on in the show, yeah? And he will be with us on Monday as well. That's the technically scheduled. So, we have the ASP, the new ASP. Arun, back to back.
Hi, morning.
Morning. I heard you was under the weather a little bit.
Yeah, really bad. I had the virus. It's a dangerous virus.
There's something, well, I don't know what dangerous, I think that there's maybe more than one thing going around with all the Christmas shopping.
Yeah, I had lost my voice.
Well, I know somebody else who lost their voice, right? But they weren't sick with anything else. They just lost their voice, from what I understood.
But I just want to, if I could do that, say thanks to the people at Mount Hope that took care of my family and I.
Okay, so it was the whole house.
Yeah, it was like an emergency situation, and they really dealt with us properly.
I think one of the things that people kind of need to understand, COVID was like a flu. And we need to understand respiratory illnesses like a flu is not always just, oh, well, you have the flu. Take some 2 Panadol and just continue about your day. It's not always like that.
No, it wasn't,
Well, so one of the things that you're here to talk about, and I think this is pertinent because I don't know how the Christmas season is going with retail. Port of Spain businesses are saying, it's Eureka. I think it potentially might be the crime and or the fact that I don't know how many businesses, they have their goods waiting to come in, right? Through the port, which has its own issues. People might be tempted to look for online deals. Of course, the economy is not that great, so trying to save money will tempt many people to do many things that they probably shouldn't be doing, that they're still doing, that the TTPS has tried to advise them for about 2 to 3 years now not to do.
Especially Facebook Marketplace.
It always comes, it's almost like if that's the main one, and if you could like get that shut down almost, it will solve 90% of the problem. Is that correct to say?
Maybe. I don't know the stats when it comes to the 90% seems a little high, but maybe it wouldn't.
I mean, a lot of it comes from Facebook Marketplace, though.
It does, yeah. But
these are online shopping and people getting scammed.
Well, yeah, it's not totally online. You make the connection online and then you go to a particular location and you get robbed.
Yes.
Yeah, so online might seem a bit safer in terms of shopping. But, we have to weigh the risk as well with online shopping. So we want consumers to understand, including business owners, that they are at risk of being targeted by hackers and whoever else, criminals, to get personal information, data, financial information. And there are things that, or there are issues that they could utilize or develop to protect themselves.
One of the things I think people don't fully understand is what are the risks of your personal information being out there, because we just saw a situation where a business owner was killed in front of a casino in South, and I guess it might be safe to say, well, the criminals probably knew this is something he did. He comes to this casino around this time, we wait for him there, and we could get,
Right. Yeah, so in terms of what, the online shopping?
Well, with regards to your personal information...
Yeah, you need to keep that safe. A lot of people actually save their information on their devices.
Yeah.
And that's something you have to be careful with, because once the hackers get into your device, they can, go through your device and get whatever information that you have, including your passwords. So some people even save their passwords on their devices. So you have to be careful with that. There are apps and there are technologies within the devices that can properly save the information for you without hackers getting into it. So it's about updating. One of the things you can do when you're using your device to do such a thing is to keep the device updated. So you're always updating your device with the current technology that's available for that particular app, whether it be a banking app, a security app, whatever app you're using to save your passwords and whatnot.
Right, because whatever the hackers are trying to do would at least when you update, most likely will not be compatible with the updates.
And then you could also purchase, in terms of your data, you could purchase what you call storage, cloud storage, and that would save your information. And then you could also purchase antivirus. Well, it
software,
is software, yeah, sorry. It has me a bit foggy, the virus.
I actually do think this is just a continuation of the long-term effects of COVID and then how these things play out, and then you get a different respiratory disease and it will bring it up again. Like there's so much we don't know. And I hate to say this, but the world is guinea pigs in this whole thing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Things like this, the Spanish flu, it happened way back when, or the Black Plague happened way back then. Thankfully, it's not as bad as that, but it's still something that we have to live with. Now, have there been do you know if there have been an increase in complaints or incidents? Because we haven't necessarily gotten every now and then we get a story in the press and Facebook Marketplace is mentioned, and I basically slap my forehead.
Yeah, there's a steady increase in reports concerning online fraud, online issues, persons involving themselves in marketplace and going to a location and getting robbed. It still happens often.
And what about the concerns about, because the other thing too is, of course, with Christmas shopping, maybe some people might want to get a grand Christmas present. And I guess this is where you putting everything online and showing the public up to date what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
And then you might want to withdraw cash or whatever to do this grand gesture.
Yeah.
And of course, criminals, we had the situation where there were concerns they were staking out people going to the banks and robbing them.
Yeah.
Can you give us any updates on that?
No, not at this time. I'm not totally familiar with the updates on those issues. But in terms of the online shopping, people try to get away from having physical cash on them. So they may use online banking. And one of the things the hackers do is that they mimic the apps that the bankers, I want to use that term, use to communicate with you. So you might be dealing with a particular bank, and a hacker might introduce the name of the same or similar name of a bank with it tweaked. So you have to be very vigilant as a consumer that when you're using banking apps, that is the correct banking app that you're using. So you want to do those transfers. You want to be careful because this is how they catch your information. They capture your information.
Right. The email address might be a minor variation.
It might be so-and-so-bank.com. It might have a common B in bank as opposed to the capital B you usually see. It's as simple as that. So you need to be very vigilant when you're looking at the app.
Because there was the police credit union and another situation, I think it was the HCU, where they got the names of the actual managers. So it wasn't fake managers' names, it was real managers' names with fake people behind the communication. They never saw them face to face and they scam people.
Yeah, and even, although we're talking online, people also do that similar, it's called phishing when you use the telephone to get persons' information. So we're speaking about online safety and banking and whatnot, but they also use telephones to communicate with you and get your information. So they trick you into, and they deceive you into handing over your information. So you have to be careful with that. Because even when we're talking about managers and whatnot, there are persons who would actually use legitimate police officers' information to gain their trust and confidence and pass on information. So you have to be careful with that as well. Who you communicate with. Validate everybody you communicate with.
Have there been any other concerns with the Christmas season with regards to any sort of crimes that you may or may not have gotten wind of?
No, it's as the usual, shopping in the public spaces, shopping at malls, groceries, be as vigilant as possible. Same kind of crimes. You have persons coming in to rob persons, blasting from the person, thefts. So it's the similar crimes we're seeing, and we want persons to continue to be vigilant because we are seeing a lot more patrols out there. We have the Joint Army patrols. You have the citizens calling in and giving information. The police officers go in and check it out. You have the ERP patrols. You have the hotspot policings. And you have the regular police patrols from the district police and whatnot. You have the CID performing surveillance and plainclothes patrols as well.
Well, I guess there's a concern that people might kind of drop their guard because it's Christmas.
It's Christmas.
So we're willing to go out later, travel further.
Visit family, friends, Lime. It's a normal thing.
Lime outside.
Lime outside. It's a usual and normal thing this time of the year. You just need to be a little more vigilant. If you have to park your car, park in a well-lit area. If you have to walk to your car, if you park far from your car, have somebody escort you. If you're going to visit family and friends, have a telephone conversation before you reach out when you leave. It's about being as vigilant as possible. You can never be too secure, and you can never be secure enough.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Now, any other safety concerns over the holiday season? I mean, one of the things we could probably get into is a future date. I anticipate the whole fireworks debate. I mentioned it earlier, the whole noise pollution situation. But I guess you could say even when it's Christmas, if you have a dispute with your neighbor over the loud music, you should still call the police and not deal with it yourself.
Well, no, neighbors could speak to neighbors.
They could speak to neighbors. When I say you have a dispute and you want to deal with it yourself, I mean a step further beyond.
Yeah, of course. If you can't relate to a neighbor, you call the police to assist.
Okay. All right. We'll leave that there, folks. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll open the phone lines and you could call in and have your say. There are a lot of stories you could get into. There's even some police stories that they could put the ASP on the hot seat. Maybe I won't do that to him his first day back out after recovering from illness. Hopefully, be respectful and don't treat him too badly. There's a recovering man. We'll be right back after this.
My name is Dr. Stephen Carroll, the CEO at Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist, and we are committed to making good private health care affordable.
For all your medical needs, including dental, radiology, laparoscopy, behavioral and mental health, along with many other services, contact us for more information at 235-5479.
Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Here's your chance to win a bicycle, a ride-on, or a hoverboard. Shop at dbesttoys.com and spend $300 or more to win big.
We've got Bobby,
Hot Wheels, Gel Blasters, Ride-Ons,
Leapfrog,
Nerf, Bicycles and Tricycles,
Greco, and Wonder Baby.
Visit us in store at Forces Flagship, McLean, Movietown, Port of Spain,
Eastgate Smart and M6 Plaza Endeavor.
Merry Christmas, everyone!
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
Connect Capital. Now's the time we open the phone line. Show Michael Small, ASP, Arun, Christopher Arun. We want to hear from you, the viewer. You could have your say. You could ask the ASP questions, put him on the hot seat. Try to ask him things he could answer. He's not the commissioner of police, folks. He can't speak for the police executive. He doesn't know fully what is going on within their minds, right? But with that said, you could call in, bring up whatever topic you want to bring up. One of the things that I guess I do want to bring up, and this is, I think this is both a good and a bad thing. We spoke about it just briefly. Of course, I guess the trend of murders has a blip in that November is less than it was, and you know, the pace that we were on to have, I think, 650 murders for the year, we're not necessarily quite on that pace anymore, which is a good thing. My concern is, well, it's not a trend yet, because one low month a trend doesn't make. Maybe if we see December, January dip as well, it might be something, because the level of violence is a concern. I think ultimately, even if we go down to 400 murders, given the level of violence, it's kind of hard to see how that could be kept low if criminals tend to be very, how to say this, boy? Not just aggressive. Aggressive does not do it justice. I won't use the word efficient. I won't use the word efficient too when they're spraying down groups of people to get one person. Exactly. We have San Fernando on the line, so before I'll go where I was going, San Fernando, good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Sean. Morning is Pierre.
Morning.
Nice to see you today. You're looking much better than the last time. Thanks. I got to tell you already whether the last time you were on the program.
Yes, thanks.
Two things, Sean. Let me start with you now. Segue into ASPR. You talk about Tobago this morning, right? And the financing in Tobago. You know, I would like somebody in authority to actually, I have an idea of the numbers. Sit down and let the public know exactly how much money does Tobago get from the national treasury every year. All the money,
not just the allocation.
4.0%, everything spent in Tobago, for the population to get an idea of what it costs to run Tobago. And this is not throwing shade at Tobago, but the numbers need to be put out there. Now, I have no problem in one of the things that they have been asking for in terms of getting the taxes paid in Tobago.
Yeah.
Now, it's difficult for some organizations, like some of the banks, because of how they do their reporting. It might be difficult for like NP and those things, but there are some people, some companies in Tobago that can pay the taxes in Tobago, and actually there's a provision that whatever is paid in Tobago goes against what they're supposed to get from the national, from the 4.03% from the national budget. Now, segueing that into this, Sean, there was a report of a couple of weeks ago. There was a what do you call it? There was a drug bust on that road to Pigeon Point there. It was a few weeks ago, and they got some stuff in a car.
Okay, yeah.
And then there was a recent one where they got the set of drugs and the guns and stuff in the pirogue. Now that had sparked my curiosity, and I started to do some research based on information that I can be privy to. And what was shocking to me is there is a Spanish, how do I put it, boy? There is the Spanish authorities, I'll put it this way, who are involved in the interdiction of drugs coming from this part of the world. They have a map of the what they call the Southern Atlantic region, right?
Yeah.
A map of the Southern Atlantic region where they show you how the drugs are coming into Europe. And what was amazing to me is that there's a route from Trinidad down to Guyana, Suriname, that goes up to Europe. But there was a cluster, or what I would call a cluster. There's a cluster shown that the Spanish have put some surveillance on. That cluster is Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent, and St. Lucia. It was shocking to see it, including the Grenadine Islands. This is a cluster, and the cluster starts in Tobago, you know.
Yeah.
Tobago is the point where the drugs go up the roads to those locations. And I am listening, and I'm saying that to say that when I listen to what's the gentleman's name in here in Trinidad and Tobago right now, the officer.
Oh gosh, I can't remember the ACP's name.
Yeah, but
Tobago.
Eli, is it Mr.? No, Sabero.
No, not Sabero. Was the other one? I think it's Eli.
Mr.
And
Eli,
he was
is
talking
Sabero.
about
Yes, Mr. Eli.
the amount of surveillance that they did and whatever. But here I have put up on a Spanish authority that have this information in our cluster.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering to what extent is our local law enforcement authorities at the hierarchy interacting with these people, because I was able to find it, It is shocking to see that map shown. And all and where these things go, how the Spanish have mapped it out, how Spain has mapped this thing out. And it bothers me that cluster from the cluster starts in Tobago. It didn't come from Trinidad, it actually started in Tobago. And we need to be very mindful, and I hope Tobago understands this and the police service puts a little more resources into stopping this, because we that last drug bust there, we see Tobago is now how would I put it, integral in that section of the drug trade going into the Grenadine Islands and that type of thing. Have a good day and a good weekend, gentlemen.
I mean,
thank you, caller.
If I could say something, I know you have a call on the line, but
yeah.
the TTPS has always been aware that Trinidad and Tobago is a transshipment point.
Yes, that is true.
And when you look at, he's talking about organized crime. So in organized crime, they are very influential in what they do. They are very efficient in what they do. Unfortunately, it's very efficient. And law enforcement has always been involved in dealing with organized crime. In her violent crime reduction plan, the Commissioner of Police mandated the police officers, specifically dealing with gangs, to also target transnational crime as well. So, transnational organized crime. So this information he is speaking of would be informed. Law enforcement would be informed of.
I would just say this. I think Spain, a lot of the information probably comes from working back. So I don't know to what extent they have information
we have
from
Interpol. We liaise with Interpol. We get daily reports from Interpol and whatnot. So,
okay. Yeah. We have Fightman on the line waiting. Good morning, caller. You're on here.
Good morning, Sean. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
Morning.
Good morning to the officer there.
Morning.
Sir, respectfully, I know that marijuana usage was decriminalized, but tell me something. I know there was supposed to be a ticketing system if people were found to be using it in public. So far, I've been following this story, and the last update I had was when Alexander was on Beyond the Tape, and he said the reason why nobody was being convicted is because there isn't the stationery to carry out the function. Now, if that is so, because I have not seen, heard, or read anything about any conviction with people using marijuana in public, and it is rampant. So if you drive around the country, I'm sure you would have recognized that yourself. The other thing I want to talk about, Sean, is that yesterday I listened to the Minister of Finance, and that was the most empty press conference I would have heard, because he come there unprepared. People were asking him questions. He was arrogant at some point, but really proved nothing except to defend something that is hollow and empty, that the investigation has now been started. So I think a lot will be revealed. The other point I want to make is that yesterday you had a very nice conversation with respect to the politician and their meddling with judiciary and everything else. I wanted to throw you back mine a little bit and remember John Jeremy and Satnarayan Sharma. And if you can remember that fiasco where the allegation was made with he and Mr. McNichols, and none of them wanted to appear before the tribunal. Sean, so I just thought I'd throw that in the mix a little bit so I could remind you of it and remind you that today.
Well, on the point of the marijuana, I'm not certain. I've never actually seen the ticket book for the, but the ticket is not for the smoking or use of marijuana in a public space. It's for the weight. It's so.
Also, that is not. There is no system in place to charge people for using marijuana in a public.
Yeah, you can be arrested and charged for using marijuana in a public space.
Okay, but the tickets is not for that.
No, the tickets for the weight. So if you're held with marijuana, let's say up to 30 grams, that is decriminalized.
Oh.
Anything between 30 and 90 grams, you get a ticket.
You'll get a ticket.
Yeah.
But if you're smoking in a public place, you could get arrested.
You get arrested and charged. Yeah.
The plot thickens because then the caller's follow-up question would be, well, why doesn't he see any arrests? And
well, I mean,
I don't want to speculate on that.
Yeah, I can't see why.
In part because we have Arima, then someone. So Arima, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Sean, and good morning to the EST.
Morning.
Morning. Right. Under normal conditions, I will banter with Mr. Shearer. But this morning, I need to banter with you also.
Okay.
No, well, I'm probably about 30-something years older than you, and I have respect for your education level. But I heard you mention something this morning, and you said that California is the 10th largest economy in the world.
Well, there was a one point, yeah.
And I said, no, something has to be wrong with that. I wonder if Sean fact-checked that. No, I am using this fact-check because I was brutally assaulted for posting something online, and somebody came and asked me if I fact-checked it. So I did my own personal research, and I am looking at Google, and I Googled it, and Google is saying is that Brazil is the 10th largest economy in the world. So I am at a loss at the position that you took. I will let you know, right?
Sorry. Okay. I'm trying to figure out where to get the actual number because I got the size. It's 4 trillion.
No, I think California is like in the top 10 economies.
Yeah, it's somewhere there. That's the funny part. I might have undersold it by saying it's the 10th.
No.
But I don't think it's not high on the list. You have economies like Japan and Great Britain.
No, I think California
and Germany
is part of the top 10.
Right, California is, or at least like top 15, top 20, something.
Something like that.
But you might be right. At one point in time, at least it was.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see if I could get. We have someone on the line. So good morning, caller. You're on the air while I try to find this figure. Caller, good morning.
A very good morning to Sean Michael, and a very good morning to the police officer there.
Morning, good
evening. Right. We have often heard this phrase that when it comes to guns and ammunition and drugs, the drug trade and the gun trade and ammunition, we always hear this phrase police in Trinidad use, that Trinidad is used as a tranche. No country that war or that is by war. But
sorry, caller, you're breaking up.
Hello?
Caller, you're breaking up. I don't know. It might be the phone line you're on, or it might be on your end.
What about tranche with ammunition and drugs?
Caller, I'll have to ask you to maybe try the other phone line when it frees up. We have another caller waiting because this isn't working out. So I literally think I know what you're talking about, but I have no idea what point you're trying to make. So it does make sense to continue on with that connection. So please try and call back. And we have Shagona on the line. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
We're talking about a lot of matters, but we are forgetting the principles of government we inherited at independence. We have special purpose agencies. These are for things that are not suitable for the normal public service methodology. What is the use of some things like NIFTEC and NEDCO and these things? The work department is quite capable of doing these things. And not only that, you put them up and they don't do nothing. They give out contracts. The good thing about when the work department, they were given contracts based on their experience. And that is why you see these useless things going on there. On the Tobago issue, people must remember why Tobago was paying with Trinidad. Tobago at that time couldn't raise the money to do the basic infrastructural works. And the position today is the same thing, if not worse. They say they don't get enough money, and I don't understand why. They get more money than all the rest of local government agency combined. But they use the money wasting it. 70% of the people in Tobago is on CPEP or whatever it is. But when they have to give out a contract to do road work, they give it out to a contractor. Why do those people do these things? And if you look back at Tobago's history, you have a large number of those things. Right? Any questions, gentlemen? Or usual, none.
No caller. Sorry, I'm sidetracked with our previous caller's question or statement. But I mean, generally speaking, the gist of what you're saying, I don't think I disagree with any of it with regards to doing the right thing. So, thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
I mean, the professor experienced in public service, and I think one of the unfortunate things is he has seen what it was and laments what it was compared to what it is now, right? And where we have come for what, and it's not unique to us. One could argue, you know, America, United Kingdom, France, Germany, they all kind of have this problem where things got more complex and more corrupt over time. But it is what it is. Now, here's something interesting. Here's something interesting. Now, depending on the recency of data, it will fluctuate, right? But just based off of 2022's figures, or I think this is 2024, yes, 2024 figures. Top economies, United States, 28 trillion, then comes China, 18 trillion, then comes Germany, 4.5 trillion, 4.6 really. Japan, 4.11, India, 3.94, and then United Kingdom, 3.5. That is Q1 of this year, right? I think it's an estimate. California is 3.9 trillion as of this year. They will rank. Their economy of California is almost as large as India's, if not as large or potentially larger on any given year. Because I think last year India was 3.8, so depending if California was at 3.9, you know, they might have been higher. So if you look at our ranking and if you just search the 10th largest economy in the world, California will not be included in that list, right? You then have to actually look for the size of California's economy in the world or in relation to the rest of the world, because that's an unofficial thing. There's not going to be an official list where they're going to separate California to the rest of the United States. But California's economy is bigger than the United Kingdom's, bigger than France, bigger than Brazil, bigger than Italy, bigger than Canada, almost as big as India, which has a population of 1.7 billion, I think. It might be the largest population in the world.
You should also look at the stats when it comes to California's crime and compare it to the economy.
Well, I mean, they have crime problems now.
No, you should look at how it's trending as a journalist.
I haven't looked at the state on a whole, but I know like Oakland had record crime within the last several years. And this is like 2 years, this is like a few years after having record lows. The same reporter was reporting on having record highs. It was kind of crazy. We have El Socorro on the line. Good morning, caller, you're on here. Caller, good morning. Caller, hello?
Yes.
Yes, good morning, caller, you're on here. Go ahead.
Oh, morning, Sean. Morning. Morning, ASP. Thank you
day.
for being present here this morning.
Thanks.
Referring to yesterday's news piece, DCP, anti-crime strategies getting traction. Steady dip in murders. Just to read an excerpt or two from that article, the recent decline represents a 28% decrease in murders over the... However, the annual murder toll up to December 4th is higher than last year at 565 this year compared to 533. With an average of 51 murders a month, TTT was on course to surpass its highest ever annual murder toll of 605, which was set in 2022. Now, ASP, my concern again, of course, we're happy that the murder toll load, decreasing last month or month before. But the detection rate, ASP, remains abysmally low.
Okay, yeah.
Caller, I guess you're also getting issues on this line. If you could call back, because you just cut off. So if you could call back on the other phone line, like with the previous caller, and we could try to squeeze you in. We could probably take one more call, either one to call back before we have to end the show. But I think therein lies the point. I understand that the TPS wants to say, well, we see positive signs, but the public are saying, well, this isn't necessarily anything to celebrate. But the flip side is, to be fair, you have to start somewhere. Maybe celebrating
too early might be an issue.
Right, or how you frame the celebration. Because you also do want to say, hey, we have some positivity to give you.
Yeah, and he is correct. The perception, the solvability factors, it's poor. It could be better. I know that the officers at Homicide Bureau, they work round the clock, tirelessly to deal with the homicides. They respond to so many homicides and try to solve homicides at the same time. It's a difficult task in itself. I myself have experience in solving homicides, and it's a heavy burden to really undertake as an investigator or as a department. So, but the stats aren't where we would want them to be at this time. Hopefully what we are seeing is a new trend, emergent trend, in terms of solving the homicides and bringing persons before the court. Because you still have, although it might seem as a trickle, there seems to be some inroads into that area. Not as much as we would want to do.
Yeah, the problem is, I think to some extent, gangsters killing gangsters also came with other complications where some of the witnesses will be people who wouldn't want to speak to the police. We're not talking community members. We're talking about some of the people participating in gangs would be some of the only witnesses, and they probably won't want to speak to you.
Yeah, traditionally, people don't want to give evidence as witnesses.
Well, you see, that's the thing. What I'm afraid of now is that more of the murders are not gang members killing other gang members, but members of the public becoming victimized, and it's just putting things in a different space.
Well, hopefully that is not the case.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But with regards to... I have asked Ashraf this multiple times, because since COVID, one of my things is, something happened, well, we'll send the police. School violence, we'll send the police. Bullying, we'll send the police back in the schools. This is happening, we'll send the police to the hospitals. We'll send the police to downtown Port of Spain. We'll send the police to here. We'll send the police to... Anything that goes wrong, even if there might be another ministry that oversees it, we got to send the police, right? Like, at what point... one of the reasons why the homicide detection rate is bad is because at the end of the day, there's maybe not enough homicide officers. And I don't know how easy it would be to increase the number of homicide detectives in the unit. Because it's not as though you could just pick a homicide police detective off a tree.
No, they have to undergo training. There is I want to use the word sweet spot. There is a sweet number where you look at the workload and compare it to the amount of officers there are in a department, including homicide. When we look at the stats from other areas, other jurisdictions, it doesn't seem that more homicide affects the capability of the officer as an investigator to solve homicides.
Right.
So there is a balance that I'm not too sure if we've reached that balance. But when you look at studies, because one of my field of studies is criminology, and when you look at research and you look at studies, there seems to be a correct balance between the workload. So there isn't any. Sorry, with the cool. There isn't data here right now that says, well, we're overworking the officers in Homicide Bureau with the amount we're getting. What the data should show is it sufficient for the amount of officers? So how to put it across is that not because there are too many homicides mean they're being overworked.
Right, okay.
Because there are efficient officers who can handle that type of workload.
Okay.
And research has shown that although it may seem that way, it doesn't necessarily be the reason that homicides aren't solved.
And every case is different. Not every homicide case is going to take like a team of 65 and
well, they work as
200
teams,
man.
yeah. They work as teams, but there is a balance that I'm not too sure we've reached that balance.
But like some are straightforward, you know, it's a domestic
of course,
situation.
yeah. No, well, you have, yeah.
And then some are complicated.
Yeah, yeah.
With regards to the transnational point, I think here's one of the things. I guess this is one of these situations where we will always be a transnational point if the crime situation is what it is. Like I said, Haiti and the vulnerabilities there of what that could mean for the rest of the Caribbean. When you see destabilization in Europe, what that means for the rest of Europe. Africa, the same thing. Asia, the same thing. I think, though, that with regards to transnational crime, it is... I understand when you say that you'll get reports from Interpol and you get intelligence and maybe training and collaboration at that point. Yeah. But I do think, though, that it would be arrogant for us as a nation to think, oh, we'll solve this all by ourselves.
No, I don't think we should even think like that, because if we're affecting communities outside of Trinidad and Tobago, because of what's passing through Trinidad and Tobago, then we should have input from persons or in communities outside of Trinidad and Tobago to assess.
I think not just input, and this is where there's some people might say it's a question of sovereignty. But part of what I would like to see is more international help, at least maritime-wise, if not even to have help on the ground, right? Of course, I don't know how it would work, because part of the thing is, if there's an international task force, then it's not just Trinidad and Tobago police trying to run around Trinidad and Tobago, deal with transnational stuff. You could maybe then go to Guyana and deal with some of it there. Venezuela might be a little bit more complicated, right? But a transnational organization implies they have resources on a level of with an international scope.
Yeah.
And we have a police service that has resources on a level of a national scope.
Right, but we get assistance from international bodies.
I know, but I think it's just more than that, because they're operating outside of your jurisdiction. So you could only chase them so far.
We collaborate with international agencies,
But I just like I said, with the maritime stuff, and when I say the international stuff, just like some of the practical issues with just like the border itself, to get more assistance, because, I mean, there's more. I don't necessarily want to put you too much in the hot seat, but that whole thing that happened in the Bahamas, where the U.S. prosecutors basically said, you know, corruption and drug shipments going through the Bahamas and coming to the U.S. and all of those things, I think the Caribbean should probably be more proactive for things like that. And of course, everybody has perception on corruption in the public service in TNT. And of course, the TTPS is no exception, but I don't necessarily want to ask you to defend all of that on your own.
Well, I mean, we are making some progress. We have the transnational organized crime unit. I think they call it TOCU. They work in Trinidad and Tobago. It's a TTPS it's a TTPS related department, and they work closely with agencies from across international agencies to help solve those types of crimes.
Well, I mean, I don't know. From where I look, it's either it's not working and they need more, or
maybe it's not well advertised, but they do a lot of work in solving these types of crime. They actually get a lot of work done that we would not know in the media. Maybe we could highlight it a bit more.
Maybe. That's one of the catch-22s that, and we'll close here with this. One of the catch-22s with law enforcement is how much do you reveal and how much do you not reveal. Right. Because there's a cost-benefit, and sometimes there's pros and cons at the same time of revealing certain information to the public, because then you're revealing sources and methods and all of that.
Yeah. If I could bring up some other quick issues with the topic at hand.
Sure.
Right. So with the online transactions, I mean, if you find yourself the victim of fraud, online fraud, two things quickly. You alert the company that the fraud took place with, like let's say this particular bank or whatever institution, and you also make a report to the TTPS so that they can action the report, right? I mean, we're still in these 16 years of activism against gender-based violence. And the gender-based violence, I understand they're doing a lot of outreach every day. They do outreach in different parts of the community, country. I think Southern Division is doing their outreach today in Southern Division. I think by now on Tuesday they'll have some more So they go to malls, they go to public spaces, and they do a lot of outreach to raise awareness and invite persons to make reports and encourage people to make reports concerning gender-based violence.
Yeah, I think we could end it there on that. Look, one of the things, at the end of the day, no matter what you think about the police, you still have to do your part and report these things.
Yeah.
Because if they go unreported, then at the end of the day, they can't be treated, and we now are operating with false information because we don't know what's going on.
And on the issue of, the police is everything, it's a holistic thing. We have to fight crimes from all levels, whether it be traffic offense, outreach programs, it's everything. So, we're involved in everything. So hopefully we'll get the job done holistically.
Hopefully.
I have some faith and confidence that we would one day do it.
I have faith and confidence that there are officers that are trying.
No, there are officers who are trying.
And I would say to the population, look, if the officers fail when we do our parts, then we could blame whichever officer that is. But if we're not doing our part and they fail, then somebody blame falls on us. And at the end of the day, that's just the way it is. I know it's not the easiest thing to do, and it seems unsafe. Yeah. But that's part of the, the civic responsibility. I leave it up to you to determine for your specific situations what's best for you. But sometimes what's best for you is taking the risk, because in the long run, covering yourself now, you'll still be exposed to the wider danger later, just like the rest of us.
If you're having issues, this is a program we could probably use to assist persons who are having issues with TTPS and getting the necessary actions from the TTPS. So
of course.
Call in when you have time, call in, and let's see how best we could assist you.
See the ASP, our new media ambassador, I believe it's official now, at least that's what I heard. Yeah. He is calling on you. If you have issues, and maybe this is something I'll formally make the call on, you might be opening yourself up to.
It's only so much time and so much calls you can take it as time. So.
Then they'll start demanding more time in the calling segment. So anyway, we're over time. We have to leave it there for 10 questions at 10 a.m. So I want to thank all the callers for calling. I'm sorry for the callers that I couldn't make out what you were trying to say. And something tells me there were some good contributions there.
Yeah.
But unfortunately...
Trans-organized crime and...
Yes. And on that topic. I think both of them were on those topics. But you could call in maybe next
Monday,
week. And the SP will be here on Monday. SP, thank you for joining me once again. Folks, make today a good day, as my co-host and colleague would say. Remember your allegiance to each other and to the Republic. And that technically includes even the police officers and politicians and public servants. They are from us and part of us. No matter how much we may complain about them, we have to do our part as well. And always remember, on that note, even if you think they're mistreating you, whether it's some public servant or whoever, always remember, it's nice to be nice. Do your part. Let them, if anything, be at fault. We'll see you next week. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
WESN. Here's your chance to win a bicycle, a ride-on, or a hoverboard. Shop at dbesttoys.com and spend $300 or more to win big.
We've got Bobby,
Hot Wheels, Gel Blasters, Ride-Ons,
Leapfrog,
Nerf, Bicycles and Tricycles,
Greco, and Wonder Baby.
Visit us in store at Forces Flagship, McLean, Movietron for the Spain, Eastgate Small, and M6 Plaza Endeavour. Merry Christmas, everyone!
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drum heads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell.